Today I'm gonna review the dumbest, weirdest little retro handheld that I've ever seen. Think I'm exaggerating? You have no idea. Oh, hi there, TechDweeb here. How's it going? So, I have this friend who's a Nintendo nut. Like, I love me some good old school NES, a Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, all that good stuff. I have my Mario knowledge baked into my brain from years of spending too much time playing video games and reading Nintendo Power magazines instead of going outside and playing with the normal kids. But this guy is like super mega Nintendo nerd. He puts me and probably you to shame. I mean, look at this guy. You might even have seen his picture before because he's like famous in the nerd world because of this Mario sweater. Well, he told me that he was gonna send me something and said I should review it. I didn't really know what to expect. Well, it arrived the other day in a tiny little package. I opened up the package and inside was something even tinier. He sent me this. I laughed when I saw it. I know what this is. This is the Thumby. It's supposed to be the world's smallest handheld gaming system. I did a review on the Funky S, which was the smallest little Game Boy Advance that I'd ever used, and it's freaking tiny, as you can see. But this, I highly doubt that I'll play a game on a system smaller than the Thumby. It's called the Thumby because it's just the size of your thumb, apparently. Well, he sent it, so I guess we gotta check it out, don't we? Alright, let's see what we're dealing with here. Oh my gosh, what the heck, you guys? Seriously? Seriously? How am I supposed to even film this? This? Will my camera even focus on this thing? Alright, give me a minute here while I figure out how I can actually film this. Is this good? Like, why? Why do I have to deal with this? Oh my gosh, what is even happening right now? Alright, okay, here we go. Now that you can see this thing in all its glory, let's check it out. So yeah, it's smaller than my thumb, if you can believe that. It has a D-pad and 2 buttons. They are clicky. Are hard to push. You need to use your fingernails because they're so freaking small. There's a charging and data port on the bottom and a power switch on top. I mean, it's super cute. It's crazy to see it in person, but it doesn't seem like it's not even going to be possible to play games on, let alone comfortable. Let's turn this thing on and see what we're dealing with. It comes pre-installed with a few games, as you can see, and I know you can add more games from the website. Here's my new favorite game. It's called Float. It's a very deep and immersive game where you're a bubble and you have to go through the gaps in the walls so you don't get exploded by the spikes. Yeah, this is the kind of game I would expect from a device like this. It's fun for a few seconds, but you're not gonna stay up all night trying to get high scores or anything. If it looks like I suck, it's because I can't use the controls properly. They're too freaking small. It does sort of work, which is more than I was expecting, to be honest. There's a few preloaded games that come installed on this, as you can see. This is Tiny Annelid. I didn't know what an annelid was, so I googled it. Annelid, phylum name Annelida, also called segmented worm. Any member of a phylum of invertebrate animals that are characterized by the possession of a body cavity, or colloid, movable bristles, or setae, and a body divided into segments by transverse rings or annulations from which they take their name. Wow, what a beautiful and interesting creature. I can understand why someone would want to make a game about it. Moving along, this is Dinosaur Run. In this game, you're a dinosaur and you're running and you have to jump over the rocks. It's sort of like Hudson's Adventure Island. Actually, it reminds me of a game my little cousin used to play when he came to visit, Dino Run DX. That's a way better game than this game, though. This game isn't very fun. Here's Space Debris, which is basically asteroids. You gotta fly around and find the space debris. The little arrows around your ship point to the debris, and when you find it, you gotta shoot it with your space laser. It's not very fun, but it takes a while to find and destroy all the debris, so it held my attention for 5 whole minutes, which surprised me. Here's a game called Thumby. It's a dungeon crawler roguelike kind of game. It's super confusing. I don't understand it. And I tried my best to figure it out, but it made no sense to me, so I bailed after a couple minutes. This is probably the best game that comes pre-installed. It's called Tiny Blocks. It really reminds me of another game I played once. I can't remember what it was called. It was a game with these blocks, and they fell, and they're in different shapes, and you need to make, like, lines at the bottom. I think it was called Falling Blocks game. Something like that. Well, this game is just like that game, except it's smaller than your picky fingernail, and it's impossible to do well in the game because the D-pad is so small you can barely use it properly. If that sounds like fun to you, then good news. The Thumby is available for you to buy today. Yay! But that's not all you can do with this thing. You can plug it into your PC and do stuff through their website interface thing. You can even make your own games for this. Crazy, right? It's totally open source, and they made it easy to make your own code and share code, and it uses a version of Python coding language. I used to do lots of coding back in the day, but I haven't coded anything in about 15 years at this point, so I completely forgotten pretty much everything I knew how to do, and I never learned Python, so no way am I gonna try and make a game for this thing. But if you know how to do coding stuff, then you can make games and play them and share them with other people, and then other people can download your games, which is what I'm gonna do now. There's a bunch of games in the Thumby arcade. I'm gonna download all these games onto my Thumby and let's try them out. The first of the new games I found is called 3D Maze. And look at this, you guys. This is actually really cool. They made a rudimentary 3D engine for this thing. And it actually looks alright. I mean, not much by the way in detail or anything, but the fact that you can tell where the walls are with the simple shading they have is pretty impressive. And you can actually play it. It's like those really old 3D games. Like, way before even games like Wolfenstein 3D. I'm talking about the really early games for DOS or the Commodore 64. Playing games on this thing it's like taking a step back in time to a simpler era of computing. I mean, the computers from back then were huge. The fact that this thing is smaller than your thumb and it could do this would make young Bill Gates' head explode. The next game I found is called Tiny Heli. It's like Flappy Bird. You press a button and you get a little boost up, and then you have to keep pressing it so you don't hit anything or fall to your death. I hate Flappy Bird, and I freaking hate this game too. Now on to the star of the show. This game is called Tiny Rogue. I don't think I mentioned it on this channel before, but I love roguelike games. Like good old school roguelikes. Games like the original Rogue, which I did play on my ancient 286 PC from the 1980s. I've been playing roguelikes as long as I've been playing video games, to be honest, and I still love roguelikes today. Actually, if I could choose one genre of game to have on a silly little tiny handheld gaming system, it would be the roguelike, because they're quick and easy to pick up and you don't need to commit to a full RPG, but they have RPG elements that provide an overarching progression to the game. And they're about thieves and archers and wizards and sword fighting guys, exploring dungeons, which is like my favorite genre of fiction. This game was really good. You could choose between a pretty big list of classes, and you explore the levels in a typical turn-based roguelike way. You need to go deeper and deeper into the dungeon, and you find items along the way, and you get into battles with rats and goblins and worms and ants and zombies, and it all works really good. I'm actually surprised that someone took the time to make a game this deep for the Thumby. This game alone is the only reason I would actually want one of these things. And it's because this thing is open source that this game could even exist. Regular people can make games and share them, and we can all reap the benefits. I don't think you should buy a Thumby just for this game, but it's the best reason to get a Thumby, and if you have a Thumby, you need to try this game. It is that good. I mean, what can I say about this thing? It's so small that it's totally unpractical. It's an exercise in frustration to actually play games on this thing. It's not fun to play by any means, but I kinda love that this thing exists. I love the Funky S because it was a curious little object. It's a tiny little retro system that plays all the games up to the 16-bit era, and it looks like a tiny little Game Boy Advance. Well, the Thumby is equally curious. It doesn't play any of your favorite retro games, it has its own games, and you can even make your own games if you know how to do that kind of thing. But the fact that there is a tiny little handheld game system that is smaller than a piece of candy, I mean, why wouldn't you be happy that that exists? I certainly am. I'm just happy there are people in the world doing things like this. Saying, what if we made a tiny little game device that was smaller than your thumb, and actually followed through with it? And then there's a community of people making games for it, and you can buy one and use it and have it and show your friends, and they'll be confused and flabbergasted and amazed that such a thing exists too. Isn't that reason enough to want one of these things? It costs 25 bucks, so for that low price of admission, you too can join in on the Thumby fun, whatever that means. I'm glad I got to spend time with this little thing and show it to you guys, all thanks to this dweeb. Thanks, buddy. And that brings us to the end. Please let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the Thumby? Would you ever buy something like this? Do you think it's cool, or stupid, or useless? Or cool and stupid and useless? That's kind of where I'm leaning, but I'd love to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, click the thumbs up button if you like the video, or the thumbs down button if you didn't like it for some reason. Subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos. I'm TechDweeb. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.